This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along. Well, we flew through Cincinnati.
Shot clock's off. Duke can hold for the final shot.
Where the Lumberjacks had it, they just couldn't secure it.
Loose. Kinsmill's got it. They've got a timeout. They don't use it. Made. Yes. The Lumberjacks have done it. The Lumberjacks apparently have done it. They'll look a little longer, but this is going to be the biggest win in program history.
Now the officials are going to look at this, but we both saw the same thing. What a great play to not, you see most guys pull up and try to shoot a jump shot.
That was last night. Welcome to Coyle and Leary on Indiana Sports Beat. Another shocker is the number one Duke goes down at Cameron to the hands of Stephen F. Austin, an unranked, non-conference, non-Power 5 opponent. The last time that happened, 1983. Holy cow. Can you remember that far back, Todd Leary?
No, I can't. But that's a Stephen F. Austin team that just lost to Rutgers just a few days ago. So that's just bodes well, I guess, for the Big Ten. But, man, being number one playing at home right now is it's a kiss of death.
I'm telling you, I mean, we saw Kentucky go down to Evansville. Michigan State went down when they were number one. Michigan State, of course, taking another hit. They took one to who? Virginia Tech. What happened to Virginia Tech? They got schooled by Dayton yesterday. And I mean, schooled, man.
Yeah, spoke 25, 27 points, something crazy. So, yeah, it is. We always talk about that's why March is so much fun. And, heck, we're getting bonus fun this year because we're getting these crazy upsets early in the season. And, I mean, it's not even in really the tournaments either. That's the crazy part. These teams are losing at home, and that's it just sets up for what an incredible, ridiculous March it's going to be.
Absolutely. And then Wisconsin took another hit last night. They lose to New Mexico 55-50. Princeton, remember Princeton, Indiana beat them handily? They almost knocked off Arizona State and Bobby Hurley last night. They lose 67-65. But it just goes to show you the people that are complaining about this 6-0 start, yeah, they haven't played anybody on paper. But in college basketball, it just doesn't matter on any given Sunday, like they say. But any given night, you never know who's going to have the hot hand. And if this doesn't tell you that, if you don't believe that after Duke loses to Stephen F. Austin, you're nuts. If you don't believe that after Kentucky losing to Evansville, you're just nuts. So, wow, what a crazy – it's like you mentioned the tournament. I was thinking about that earlier, Todd. This is like a taste of the tournament in November. That's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. It really is. I mean, you probably maybe expected some of these things in the Maui Classic or the Paradise Jam or Battle for Atlantis or some of those. I mean, you probably figured there would be some mediocre upsets and some where you're like, okay, well, I didn't realize Illinois State was going to be as good as they are. No, you've got teams going into some of the most difficult places in the country to play. I mean, Rupp Arena and Cameron Indoor probably have to rank up there all time as, the toughest places to go in and win as a non-conference opponent especially. And, I mean, there's got to be a crazy, ridiculous stat of when the last time, Duke lost at home to an unranked non-conference opponent. I mean, that's probably got to be like
1983.
Oh, that's the last non-conference one? Yeah.
It's the last non-conference, non-Power 5 opponent.
Yeah,
the last non-conference
and that would have been
was 19 years ago.
That would have probably been the 83 was probably like what Krzyzewski's probably second, third year. I mean, it was probably really early on when they weren't very good anyway.
Yeah, I think he got there like maybe 79 or something.
Did he? Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about this. I mean, his first 3 or 4 years, I mean, his record was terrible. He had a crazy losing record.
Losing record.
Yeah.
Losing record.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just you talk about. I was watching that game last night, that Duke game, and the thing that got me is Stephen F. Austin. They never quit. They kept taking it to Duke, and it was just amazing. I'm like, wow. I've been in that environment. I know you have as well, but that is as raucous of an environment. It's not the biggest, but man, they're just on top of you, and it is nuts. And to go in there, a team like Stephen F. Austin, who has nothing to play for other than pride. But to go in there and just take every punch that Duke had to throw and to come out on top, nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see a game like that where the winning score was like 53-51, where the other team was able to just make it like a really ugly game. And, Duke, or the heavy favorite, just couldn't shoot the ball very well or couldn't put it in the basket. It just got slowed down and got taken out of their pace. Well, that definitely wasn't the case. It was 85-83 was the final. So they went out and ran with them and went up and down the court and scored points. And, I would probably say that trumped the Evansville, Kentucky as the worst loss of the year for a number one ranked team.
You know what? It's certainly side by side, if nothing else. But Craig, because they were 27.5-point favorite, I think. I think Kentucky was right in that same area.
Yeah. Well, Stephen F. Austin, I mean, they lost to Rutgers, in the last week. But besides that, they'd been beating people pretty bad. So they're probably not a terrible team, but, it makes the Big Ten look decent because Rutgers handled them, I think, fairly easily last week.
Yeah, those two losses Wisconsin have taken doesn't help with the Big Ten, though. They're beaten twice already. Michigan State beat again by a Virginia Tech team who gets handled by Dayton the next day. Man, Dayton looked good. That kid they got that big kid, Toppin, I think is his last name. Whew, man, he was putting some spin moves and dunking on them all day long. It was just like at will.
Yeah, I'm sure Virginia Tech was feeling great about their win. That's one of the things that makes that tournament difficult is, you play, I think they've changed it now where you play 3 games in 3 days. Like they'll all play back to back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday, and you took Thanksgiving Day off and they played the finals on Friday. But I think they've switched it. So you play 3 in a row. So yeah, playing all those games back to back, Virginia Tech was pretty happy with themselves, obviously, on that win against Michigan State. And they did not come out to play because they got drummed.
You mentioned Rutgers. They won last night 85-58 over the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Let's see. I think I saw Nebraska was playing last night as well. They got beat by George Mason. It's going to be a long year for your boy Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska. I mean, they have gotten beat by teams that are just not good, and that does not. They may not win a game in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, they've got 14 new faces in that program, and not including in a completely new coaching staff. So, that program obviously had some issues, and they had to know that coming into it when he took that job. And Freddie is one of those guys that is really fun to play for. He's a great guy to be around, and he'll have that thing turned around in a hurry. But I don't think it's going to be this year.
Illinois also gigantic win last night. Not over who they played. They played Lindenwood, which I've never heard. Some school out in the woods somewhere probably. But they win 117-65. They're going to be legit this year, man. They got that big kid. I forget his name, but he's a big boy. He's a big 7-footer. Ayo Dosunmu. He scored 25 points last night. He's a big kid, man. 7-footer. He moves well. It's going to be interesting to see what Illinois gets done this year.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple teams in the Big Ten that I think have had a couple of down years that this may be the year they kind of get it back up and turned around. I think Illinois is probably one of those programs. They've kind of been not the doormat, but they've taken some beatings in the last few years. And if you look at the numbers they're putting up points wise, they're scoring some points, and they'll be that arena is always the pretend assembly hall. That whole campus is kind of really.
Well, I think we're about to lose Todd at the moment. If not, we're going to just cut him off. But we'll look forward to talking to him more about some more of these games because there's more games I want to talk about. Kansas, they played BYU last night, and of course we'll get him back on as soon as I say it all. But are you just waiting for him to join, Jake? Yeah, BYU and Kansas, they played. You back with us there, Joe, the truck driver?
I could hear you the whole time.
Yeah, well, that's great, except we couldn't hear you, which is actually perfect sometime.
Yeah, I didn't say anything important. Trust me.
Kansas played BYU last night, and that's the same tournament that Dayton is in. Man, Kansas won handily at the end, 71-56. But BYU, it was funny when I'm watching them play. I'm watching. It's like I'm watching the movie Hoosiers. They look like Hickory. The way they passed the ball, and it was just old school, straight up pass, and they passed so well, and they shot the ball pretty well. They got outmanned by a Kansas team that just outmanned them. But man, they were fun to watch. They were just straight up, fundamentally sound. They're going to win a lot of games.
They beat somebody the night before in that tournament. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, they advanced in the winners side of that bracket. In that tournament, and they frustrate you when they are sitting there, using the whole shot clock and passing 6 passes on offense. I mean, they're playing kind of that old school motion where they're waiting for you to make a mistake or miss a rotation defensively, and that's just not seen a whole lot in today's game of basketball, and so it becomes frustrating to a lot of teams.
Well, BYU beat Houston a week ago in Houston. 72-71, and then they beat UCLA in the Maui gym the night before they took on Kansas. So, but they were just fun to watch, man. Now we get Kansas and Dayton. That's going to be a pretty daggone good matchup. Dayton's got that kid Toppin, man. They looked really good.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the final too, isn't it? Is that the final of that?
I would think it is.
Yeah, if it's the third game, so it has to be the final of that Classic. So I'm sure that's not the matchup they thought they'd have in there. They probably had Kansas and Michigan State slated to be playing against each other. But, I mean, that's just that's a overall, it's going to be like that in all these tournaments, I think. I mean, there'll probably be a bunch of, not chalk matchups as what they were expecting to have in the early Thanksgiving tournaments.
Yeah, it's just fun watching all these games. Now, the Maui gym, since it will end tonight, right?
Yeah.
Tonight, did you all have to fly home on Would you have to fly home on Thanksgiving?
It was different when we did it. Like I said, we played. You played Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you had Thanksgiving Day off because we always spent Thanksgiving, at the hotel there in Maui. And I got to go there once as a player and once as an analyst with Fish, and it was different back then. You had that day off in between, so they've just changed it up. So it's over before Thanksgiving now. So I'm sure, as Indiana, I can assure you, we would have been on a plane flying home that night. That's just how Coach Knight was. He wanted to get back home as quick as possible, and I would guess a lot of those teams that don't get to go there a lot and aren't there that often. They'll probably stay for a couple extra days and take in some sightseeing and probably go see the Pearl Harbor tour and some of that stuff.
Did you ever get to see the Pearl Harbor?
Oh, man, that's one of the greatest things. I talk about it's one of the greatest things that we did the whole time that I was at IU. Coach Knight, he's a gigantic history buff. And
right.
He had some big-time connections in the military, guys down there, and we got a tour that I don't know there's very many people get. And we got to go down into the doldrums of some of those submarines and stuff that's down there. And I wish back then we had cell phones and smartphones like we do today, because I would have had some awesome, crazy pictures to be able to go back and talk about in memories. Because that's one of the greatest parts about what we were able to do there was that visit was truly memorable and something I'll never forget. We got to see parts of ships that most people on the public tours don't get to go see, all because of Coach Knight. So it was just well worth it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, anytime you get to do, because that is just one of the most historic places from such a long time ago and such an important part of this nation's history. Wow, that's just awesome stories.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, it's hard to describe. As a kid, there's no way we appreciated what it was, but it was even that cool that we were taken back by, we got to go into, like the quarters where what would it be called? The guy who runs the ship, the general, whomever it was.
The captain?
Whoever's in charge. Yeah, captain of the ship. I mean, we got to go into, where they make all the decisions and their quarters where they sleep and just places where the average tourist doesn't get to go. And that's part of, you take the good with the bad, and that's part of the good you got with Coach Knight is people really wanted, they were really willing to take him and see some things that you didn't always get to see.
That's incredible. Hey, we got a big show coming up. Matt Weaver from Peaks.com is going to be with us as always. We're going to talk about it's Bucket Week. Of course, we're going to talk Indiana and Purdue and talk some bowl options as well. Lots more basketball to talk. The ladies, Indiana's women's team, they get ready to take on South Carolina. I think that's not till tomorrow when they start. We'll double check that. But Indiana soccer this weekend as well. We got lots to talk about. Stay tuned. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
You gonna know my name.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former IU basketball player Derek Elson. Follow the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Wednesday, pre-Thanksgiving Day. We got plenty to be thankful for. Right now, we've got Matt Weaver to be thankful for from Peaks.com. Matt, how are you, brother? got no audio on that, Jake.
I'm sorry. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good, fine. How are you? Great to have you. Man, a lot going on. I know, even though it's Thanksgiving week and that interrupts a lot of stuff, there's a lot happening in football, especially for Indiana right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a big game this week, the bucket week, and it's weird when it falls. I mean, it's obviously been like this for a while. It falls on the week of Thanksgiving because of the holiday, but they don't have class, so I guess that's one good thing. But you got to kind of navigate around, spending some time with family and all that on Thursday. So and still trying to prepare for what is maybe not as big as the last couple of years as far as what it means for Indiana's season, because they're already bowl eligible, but still huge because they've lost the bucket the last 2 years. And you'd really like to go. I think you were the one that asked it on Monday about going into the bowl prep with some momentum, and I thought it was a really good point. Going in with a good feeling and some positive momentum instead of coming off a 3-game losing streak and a loss to a Purdue team that I think in the end is clearly better than.
Absolutely, and it's extremely important for Indiana because there's a big, big difference between ending the season with a win, going 8-4 to match one of the only 9 times ever. This would be the 9th time ever to win 8 games, as opposed to going 7-5. I know it's 7-5. A lot of other years, people would be jumping for joy, but this year, I think they have to get this last win and that 8th win to really make this season special.
Yeah, and I think before the season, if you would ask most IU fans, hey, would you be happy with 7-5? I'm sure the majority of them, if not all of them, would say yeah. But if you told them that you were 7-2 going into the last 3 weeks, I think 7-5 would have been a bit of a letdown. Especially seeing how the season's kind of gone for Purdue and how they've obviously they've struggled at times, and they're staring a losing record in the face, and so. This is a big one. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I think if Indiana plays their game and goes up there and does what they've been doing for much of the season, I think they're going to be okay. But it's a rivalry game. I think Brom and that staff is going to throw everything they've got at them. I think you're going to see all kinds of trick plays and stuff. Now, weather may play a part in that. It looks like it could be kind of a nasty day. So that might kind of hinder what they're able to do on offense. But I think if Indiana plays their game, I think they should feel pretty confident about walking out with a win in the old Oakham bucket.
Absolutely, and they have to be good. They won that thing 4 straight years and then went on a 2-game losing streak, which they're currently on with that. So getting that back is huge for a morale boost. But also, in the last couple of years, there's been guys like David Bell, who both teams have been courting in the recruiting world. So this is big for recruiting as well, which Indiana's already done a marvelous job in that regard. But it still helps when you are the king of the state that you're trying to recruit.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it, and it's hard to kind of quantify how much one game plays into it, but it definitely gives you bragging rights, and I think recruits kind of do notice, the way programs are going, and obviously they've been really close the previous 2 years. I mean, they were both 5 and 6, going into that game, so it's not like it was a monumental difference, and the games were both pretty tight, so. Indiana's obviously had a much better season this year than Purdue, and you'd really like to cap it off, because if you win this game, Purdue's not going bowling, but I think if a 5-7 Purdue goes into their off season with a little bit better taste in their mouth than a 7-5 Indiana team, as weird as that sounds, Indiana's going to a bowl game because they'll kind of one up them once again and kind of had their number for the 3rd year in a row. So I'm with you. This is a big game for a number of reasons.
And then if you want to get just truthful about it, Indiana's the better team on paper, and they should absolutely win this game. They've got although they are quote-unquote backup quarterback, he's not really. He's half starter anyway, where Purdue, they're down to their 3rd-string quarterback. They're without Rondale Moore. Indiana's getting Walt Fillier back. So there's no reason Indiana should lose this game. On paper, they are far and away the superior team, but there's the outlier there in Jeff Brom. He's always a pretty creative coordinator, even though he's the head coach.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see. The weather forecast for a few days ago was for nasty weather. This is Indiana, so who knows? It could change. But the last time they played in some nasty weather, when they played Illinois, they could not do anything offensively. And they're not a good running team. And usually, when the weather's not great and it's harder to throw, obviously, run the ball is even more paramount. They're a bad run defense. Purdue is. They're the worst in the league. They're actually, I think they're the worst in run offense and run defense in the Big Ten. I think that obviously favors Indiana. I think they've obviously got the better running game. Not a great running game, but it's definitely a step up above from Purdue. And then their run defense has been more solid this year than the Boilermakers has. So, if weather comes into play, I mean, if I was Purdue, I would want good weather. I would want where you could do a lot of things where if you're going to do trick plays, you have to handle the ball a lot, pitch it to different guys and all that kind of stuff. You want nice, pristine conditions and no moisture and that kind of thing. So I think the weather probably hurts them as far as trying to do some different things.
Absolutely. Now, there's a lot of talk. We're talking about being bowl eligible. Indiana already there, of course. But where they're going to end up has been the big question. And up until the last week or so, that's just all been guesses by people. But it's starting to take shape. We pretty much know they're going to end up in one of a couple places, the Gator Bowl being the most likely, I think, in my mind. It's what I said actually a few weeks ago. But they've got that tie-in with Nashville, the Music City Bowl. And then there's the outside chance of the Outback Bowl still, I think. But I think the Gator Bowl is most likely destination. And I've seen a matchup with Tennessee for Indiana, which I think would be very good for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And I think either one of those bowls would be appealing for IU, the Gator Bowl down in Jacksonville or, the Music City Bowl, obviously in Nashville, it would be close. And I think if for example, if you got the Music City Bowl and it was an IU Kentucky or, maybe even an IU Tennessee, which you mentioned for the Gator Bowl, anything like that where you've got two teams in that area, I think it'd be a really appealing game. Obviously with, if it was the Kentucky, it'd be really kind of cool just because they haven't played in so long. There's the rivalry and all that. And obviously both schools are about similar distance away from Nashville. So I think you'd have a pretty good showing. But the Gator Bowl would be terrific too. Indiana recruits, obviously Florida incredibly hard. Jacksonville's a place where they hit, it's one of their key recruiting areas in that state. So that would be, and obviously hopefully get some nice weather being down in Florida this time of the year. So, it's just nice. No matter what, it looks like you're going to get a pretty good bowl game. I don't think they're going to get stuck out in Santa Clara, or definitely not going to be up in Detroit, or anything like that. So it's nice to have these kind of options for the Hoosiers right now.
Absolutely, and they go into the weekend, it looks like, as an 8 or 9 point favorite. That's always dangerous in this game, even no matter what the records, no matter what the situation. That's a dangerous scenario for Indiana. They've had a kind of target on their back. They're supposed to win this game, and that's a dangerous place to be in a rivalry game.
Yeah, it is, and I've seen this game for a number of years, a long time, and I've seen games where Indiana was had the winning record and Purdue was struggling, and vice versa. This game, there's obviously been blowouts. We've seen it, but a lot of times this is a knockdown, drag out kind of street fight, and I wouldn't expect it to be any different. The thing that's going to be interesting for me is Purdue's obviously a really young team. They played a lot of young guys, and we talked to the IU players, all the ones we talked to on Monday were from out of state. And they even admitted when they first got there, they didn't realize what the rivalry was about. It took a year for them to kind of figure it out. So for these young Purdue guys, do they get it? Do they understand it? They can be told by the upperclassmen, but until they play in it, they may not get it. Since their season's basically, as far as postseason is over, how locked in are they going to be on Saturday? If Indiana comes out fast and can get off to a good start, do they kind of wilt a little bit just because there's not a whole lot for them to play for? Because right now, the old Oaken bucket to the Purdue, those freshmen, is just a trophy. In a year or two, it'll mean a lot more, but it'll be interesting. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but to me, that'll be interesting because they've got a much younger team, and some of these guys, to them, it's the game hasn't taken on that importance that it will when they become sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Yeah, and it's a great way for the Hoosiers into a really good season so far. So we'll see if they can get that done, man. It's going to be exciting, and I hope you have a good time in West Lafayette.
Okay, take care, man. Happy Thanksgiving.
Matt Weaver, happy Thanksgiving to you, brother, and your family. We appreciate you so much. Matt Weaver from Peaks.com. Make sure you check him out. He gives you complete coverage of Indiana football. We'll talk to you again next week, Matt.
Okay, see you guys.
You bet. There's Matt Weaver from Peaks.com joining us here on this pre-Thanksgiving Wednesday, rather. day before Turkey Day. Hope everybody's probably having an off day, having fun. Oh, here, welcome back, Joe the truck driver.
I was here the whole time. I listened.
Oh, I know. Thank God we got to mute you. Todd's traveling today. He's not in the studio, and it's so windy outside.
Can you hear it? I'm sorry, I didn't realize you could hear it.
No, that's okay. I'm just watching the wind outside as well. It's horrible out there.
It's nuts.
It's bad out there, but we got plenty more coming up. We got a lot of basketball to talk about. Georgia and Tom Crean, they were down big last night, but they came back, made a game of it. At least we'll talk about that. A lot more IU basketball as well. Stay tuned. Back with more from Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle and Larry from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
All right, all you Hoosiers out there, make sure you listen to my main man when it's time to talk about Indiana sports. Jim Coyle. All right.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
I heard it all before.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving, November 27. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you're ready to have a great meal, spend some time with the family, argue with some people, watch some football, just all that good stuff that people do for the Thanksgiving holiday. Looking forward to that. Man, one game, Todd, we didn't talk about last night. Michigan State took on Georgia and Tom Crean, and they were getting Georgia was just getting annihilated in the first half. Looked like they were going to run away with that. Then all of a sudden, things changed, man. That kid got hot.
Yeah, I mean, 20-plus point halftime lead. You expect Michigan State to just run away with that game. But, that player, everyone's got him projected being drafted in the top 5 in the NBA this year. And, boy, he definitely got hot. His points were huge, but he shoots every time down the court. And last year, when we talk about last year's Indiana team, I blame Romeo, and I don't mean I blame Romeo. I blame the system of how they played with Romeo, and that's kind of the same way Georgia's going to be all year. I mean, when they're going to be in games, but with not making those shots, I mean, they're going to get drummed and destroyed, and so that's not a great fun brand of basketball, but it's pretty fun if you like watching that kid play because, boy, he was scoring at will on Michigan State.
Absolutely, man. And there's no doubt he's a one and done. So it's like, what's Tom Crean going to do next year? Because he's not going to have anybody to row that boat for him.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tough team to watch. I tried to watch them last year a little bit, and it's a lot like I love Coach Crean as a human and as a person, but man, sometimes I don't love watching his team out on the court, and this would definitely fit in that category.
Tim Tex hit the text line, wants to know, is Todd delivering for Amazon today?
I wish I was. I wish I was.
We talked about Indiana possibly playing Tennessee in the Gator Bowl. They played Tennessee in the Peach Bowl way back in '88. I was at that game. That was a tight game. Indiana barely lost. I think the score was 27-22, something like that. But it's a very tight game. I remember that back in the Bill Mallory days. But could be a rematch. That'll be fun. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
Yeah, you've talked about, the matchups could be them against Kentucky or Tennessee, and you look at both of those schools as SEC schools, and man, it just sounds different. I think 15 years from now, it would sound better to say you beat Tennessee in a bowl. Just the tradition rich of that program versus Kentucky in football.
Yeah. Peyton Manning was quarterback. You can tell the story. Peyton Manning was quarterback.
yeah. I mean, nobody's going to remember at that point. But yeah, to me, it just sounds better if you're able to play against Tennessee and come out with a victory. I think years down the road, that's going to sound like a better win.
Dude, if you end up with they win this Purdue game that puts them at 8 wins, they win the bowl game. And so if you could say you had a 9-win season with a bowl win over an SEC team, yeah, that looks like a really, really nice package of a year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would prefer that SEC win be over Tennessee than Kentucky, though.
Another question into the text line, but you can all hit up 812-269-6367. Does Archie get the defense lined out before stiffer competition?
I mean, I think they've improved every game. I mean, I don't think the defense is that bad. So
I don't think it has been either. They haven't. They haven't had any games like Duke or Kentucky or these other guys that have given up to the very similar teams that Indiana's beaten.
Yeah, I mean, when you say get the defense lined out, like, I think the defense probably started about where everyone would have guessed it would have, and they've improved. If you watch their rotations, I think I made the comment after the very first game that I was pretty impressed with the defense and how they rotated and communicated and talked to each other, and the help was good, their recovery was good. I think they've improved in just about every ball game. The last game, man, I'm telling you, that Louisiana Tech team could score, and they had a bunch of different guys that could score, and that makes it a lot more difficult. I mean, just like what we talked about a second ago, when you get a Georgia team that has one player that, takes 50% of the team's shots, it's a little bit easier to defend a team like that. When you've got a team that has, I think Louisiana Tech had 5 guys that all averaged within like 9 to 12 or 13 points, and that's much tougher to defend when you've got a bunch of different guys that could score. I was pretty impressed with the defense of Indiana, just all the way through the season right now, but especially in the Louisiana Tech game.
Ryan hits us up on the text line from Michigan, says, I am a big Crean fan. Did not get a chance to watch the game last night, but wow, they have a squad. Saw the stats of Edwards. Follow them and know they will be competitive this year. Yeah, they'll be competitive as long as Edwards is having a good night because he's it.
Yeah, I mean, and he's going to be up there in scoring for the year. I mean, he's going to be up there in what he averages. I think There won't be any question that, he'll be one of the top players in the country, and everyone will be watching to see, how he plays and what he does. But, the guy had, 37 points. He took 26 shots. I mean, that's not that great. I mean, the team shoots 65 times overall, and he takes 26 of them. That's not, efficiency rating is not great, and he's not going to rank anywhere near up there in what that would calculate to. But people don't really look at that. I mean, it's like, LeBron or Westbrook or Harden and those guys. I mean, when those guys average 36 points a game, I mean, heck, they're shooting almost 30 times a game, and that's pretty easy to do. I mean, I like the guys. You get Trace Jackson-Davis that shoots 9 times and has 21 points. I mean, that's what I want to see.
That's efficiency. He's been very efficient. Indiana, by the numbers, their numbers are up. Their defensive efficiency rating is up. I think they're in the top 25 in both of the categories. So they're trending in the right direction. And as long as you keep consistently doing what they're doing, and they have consistently, they've been pretty consistent over these 6 games that they've won. There was maybe one where they were kind of down, but they've been consistent. And again, I keep using the same example, but man, all you got to do is look at Kentucky, look at Duke, look at Michigan State. If you're not on your toes every night, you're going to get stung. And Indiana they've made it through this. I mean, they beat a Princeton team that almost beat an Arizona State team last night. So it's not like they haven't had their opportunities to get upset. They have.
Yeah, and truly, like I think people think you're just blowing smoke at them when you say a Louisiana Tech team, had a chance to beat them, and I firmly believe that. I'm not just like trying to make the game sound better than it was. Like watching them warm up, watching the confidence level they had when they came in there. If Indiana doesn't come out and smack them in the mouth the way that they did and play so well in the first 15 minutes of that ball game, I think it could have been a different result. And it's just like you watch Virginia play right now, and Virginia is probably one of the most difficult teams to play against in the country because their defense is always so good. And, I think I saw a stat. They've only given up 50 points one time this year, and they've got a couple games they've given up points in the 30s. And so that's just a very difficult team to play. And they've struggled all the way down to end of ball games where, heck, they were behind with like 4 minutes to go, just in the game the other day. So it's going to be that way all year. I mean, once conference season starts, that's when you've got to win. That's when you've got to go on the road and win a couple of games that maybe on paper doesn't look like you should be able to win, or you catch a team on a bad night. And that's, hopefully that's Indiana goes into Big Ten play, with a great record. The 2 early Big Ten games, Wisconsin and Nebraska, on paper are both very winnable games right now. Going to Wisconsin, early in December is always going to be difficult. But man, if Indiana can win those 2 games and, only have maybe 1 or 2 losses heading into January, I think they'd be sitting in a pretty darn good position.
Absolutely. There also news yesterday, bad news for Missouri's sports programs. They appealed the postseason ban issued by the NCAA, and they said tough. You're going to be banned, and Missouri was pissed about it. But I'm like, dude, you did the crime. Just because they cooperated, they want to not get the punishment. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
We don't know the details of all that stuff, but to the point of what you're saying, I think probably their gripe is going to be, I think the NCAA is just inconsistent in how they decide to punish people. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. It's just you're going to have a gripe about it because it seems like they punish one program differently than they punish other programs. And, but we don't know all the intricate details.
Right. But I think a bigger issue is these transfers and the waivers of getting to play right away or not. And every day we're seeing, like yesterday, Jake Forrester, who transferred from Indiana to Temple, he was giving his waiver was allowed. He's going to be able to play this year. You saw recently that Judd Heathcote, my God, Tom Izzo resigned from the coaches board or some coaches board because his waiver was denied for a player. And it doesn't make sense. It's like, why are all these guys be given waivers and then a couple aren't?
Yeah.
And they don't explain why. And there's no, and there really, in most cases, there's no difference. And so it's like they're being arbitrary in this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to compare the two organizations, and I truly feel like they're both just as ridiculous and inconsistent as each other.
NCAA and the Mafia?
The IHSAA and the NCAA are both – I mean, there's no governing body over the two of them. I mean, they just on a whim decide they're going to do something one way for one program or one school and do something another way for another. And I can assure you, if you've got a big-time program in high school, the IHSAA is going to treat you differently than if you're a little podunk school in the middle of nowhere. And, it's the IHSAA I don't feel like is any different. Now, there are for sure some details that we don't know about. But the NCAA and the IHSAA should make those details known so that they don't look like such buffoon idiots out there, because they make decisions that everyone can legit say, hey, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they be treated any different than someone else? And, they always just sit back and don't give any statements or any response. And, they can just sit back and be quiet. There's no governing body that's going to force them to give a reason why they make a certain decision. They can just decide whatever they want.
Well, we saw that it was Southport, an Indiana high school up south of Indianapolis, Southport High School. They just got banned for the entire season I think in essence, the coach helped a transfer student in some way. I forget what it was, how he helped him, but he helped a transfer student.
I mean, think about it. Just look at that. And again, I'm admitting I don't know the details of that whole situation, but if you think about the IHSAA and every decision they make should be to the
benefit
in favor of the kids. I mean, in some way, the kids at the end of the day have to be the reason why they make whatever decision that it is. And man, they just took a bunch of kids that are expecting, to have a chance to play for a state title, and in the middle of the year just basically said, yeah, you're not going to have a chance to play in the postseason. I mean, think about what that does for the seniors at that school. I mean,
well, here's what I don't get. If this is an infraction made by the coach, and that's what they're alleging, suspend the coach.
Agree completely. I do not understand it. But that's the thing. They won't have to give an explanation. They don't have to answer to anyone. They make whatever decision they want to make. And that's the end of that's the rule. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's the way it is. And it's not black and white written. And that's what makes it so frustrating and so difficult. And that's where you see people, just really, you see Tom Izzo, who we're all going to admit is probably one of the most well-respected coaches across the country. And he feels strongly enough about it. He's willing to resign from the coaches committee. I mean, that's a loss for the coaches committee, because that guy, I think, would have the best interest of all kids and all schools and all programs in mind when they would vote and make decisions. And the committee losing him, that's a loss for, in the long run. We may not ever really know how that impacts all the other schools, but that's a loss to the committee. And the NCAA they don't care. They truly don't care. They think they're bigger than every other aspect and every other school and every other situation. And it makes it insanely frustrating, but I could talk about this all day long, because when there's no explanation for it, it just becomes frustrating beyond belief.
Absolutely, I understand. There was also, speaking of Indianapolis area high schools, there's a situation at Ron Colley that was deeply disturbing that saw yesterday. And my gosh, you just look at that and shake your head, and you want to grab a hold of it. Just makes you want to grab a hold of a kid and push him up against the locker and say, "What the hell are you thinking?"
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't know the details of it, and I'm gonna hold off on judgment as to what actually happened and what the details are, because I don't know. I don't know what's true and what's not true. I don't believe everything I read. I've learned that in my life, that some of the details that are given out there in the public are not even close to accurate sometimes. So I'm not standing up for anybody. I'm not taking a side on either one. I don't know enough about it to say what happened.
Well, while we're talking about Indianapolis area high schools, how about Carmel Zionsville last night? I heard that was a pretty good game.
Yes, it was. It was. I drove up, and my youngest son is a junior at Carmel, and they were getting beat. Zionsville's got a very good team. They've got a big 6'11" kid. They've got a 6'4" senior that's really good. And man, they got off to a great start. Carmel was really struggling, but William Leary had a good night for himself. He was 5 for 5 in shooting and 4 from the 3-point line, and hit a 3 with 2 seconds to go to put Carmel up by 3. And boy, we really thought he hit the game winner, but you got to give Zionsville a ton of credit. They drew up a play, and shot one from about the hash mark and made the three to send it to overtime, and then they beat Carmel in overtime.
Rough way to go. Where'd that Leary kid learn how to shoot?
Yeah, well, he got it. That's one quality he got from his dad. Thank goodness. Hopefully, he didn't get very many of the other ones, but his ability to score he got from me. Thank goodness.
So that's early in the season for those guys. I would expect that they're expecting a pretty good season.
Yeah, coming off a state championship, you always kind of expect Carmel to be a good team and a difficult team to play against, and I think they're right there in that position. I mean, they've got some super talented players. They've got a sophomore kid, Peter Suter, that's being recruited by a lot of different schools, and talked to Indiana and Purdue and all of those schools as well. So they've got some ability to be pretty good. They got a big 6'10" Charlie Williams kid that's only a sophomore also, and they'll be decent. They'll be pretty good, I think, by the end of the year, especially.
What year did you say Will is?
He is a junior.
Will I am is a junior. So did he get to play on the state championship team much?
He did not. This is his first year on the varsity. So
man, that means they're loaded. They were loaded.
Yeah, they're that school, when you get 5,000 kids, I mean, most schools don't have a point of reference with that. They've got, they probably got 5 kids over 6'7" that didn't make the team. And most schools would take one 6'7" kid. So it's just, it's a big school and it's a lot of competition. And yeah, they're almost always pretty good.
Yeah, my point of reference at Floyd Central, that would have, Carmel would have been about 3 times the size of Floyd Central, a decently sized school.
I think it was pretty much the size of the city, wasn't it? Size of your town.
Well, there's not one. There's like a bunch of little towns grouped together: Georgetown, Greenville, Floyd Knobs, Galena. Yeah. They're all together there. So,
believe me, I've had those conversations with Pat Graham.
Yeah, it's just amazing. When I saw a few years ago how big that school was, I'm like, "Are you kidding me? 5,000 students? Are you nuts? It's like a small college, man.
It is. It's like its own little city. I mean, you get up there at 131st Street. I mean, it's Carmel High School is like its own little city there. It's pretty impressive.
A lot of things coming up, and a lot of fun things. I hope you're doing for the holidays, with the Thanksgiving holidays coming up.
But yeah, it is. I'm really excited to come back. Carmel's playing in Ohio, Mason, Ohio on Friday. So I'll be headed back from Virginia from Thanksgiving straight to that game. And then I am spending the night in Bloomington, waking up to you on Saturday morning.
That means I'm going to have a
day.
That does not make my Saturday morning look fun.
We got a big day Saturday. We got a lot of football to watch. We got a lot of basketball to watch and talk about.
It is a big day on Saturday. Don't forget, Indiana plays Purdue for the bucket at noon, and we're inviting people to come on out to Yogi's. Let's just do a football watch party, man, because when the game gets over, the basketball game will start, and then as soon as the basketball game's over, of course, you got After the Game with Todd Leary there coming to you live from Yogi's. But you might as well just come out and watch the game with us at Yogi's and have some tenders or chicken velvet soup or whichever of those great concoctions that you love. Todd prefers the little mini corn dogs.
I do like those mini corn dogs, but there's a lot of different things on that menu that I like. And coming off of a big Thanksgiving meal, I turn that into kind of a multi-day event. I just like to eat throughout the whole weekend. So I can assure you the two of us will have plenty. We'll talk Yogi's into having some discounted appetizers or free appetizers or something if we get some people to come out and watch that football game with us.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm like, okay, just bring me page 1, please.
Yeah, I know. Bring menu. Me up let's just try all those.
Looking forward to it. We've got a lot to get to yet on the program today. We got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about the college football playoffs when we come back. The new poll came out yesterday. A little bit of a surprise at the top. There was a changing of the guard of sorts, and we got a lot more basketball to talk about too, man. There's tons to get to as we get continued here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry. We appreciate you joining us here on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It feels like a Friday, but
it sure does.
We're still on a Wednesday here. It's still Hump Day from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, and we're back with all that and plenty more right after this. everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry here on this Wednesday, hump day, day before Thanksgiving Day. We got all kinds of days all wrapped up today. Jim Coyle with you, Todd Leary, as always. Jake Field keeping things on the track for us today, so we don't go off the track all days. I'm looking forward to pigging out tomorrow, man. I'm going to just have a big old meal.
You know, I in the past, I think I've done a much better job in past years of kind of making early in the week, kind of not eating a whole lot and being ready for a big Thursday, Friday eat fest. And with all our basketball games and being at Yogi's and all that stuff, I have not prepared very well for this. I feel like I have eaten way more than I should have recently. I feel like I should almost take Thanksgiving off, but I don't have that kind of discipline. You know that won't happen.
That's un-American anyway.
Yeah, true.
College football playoff rankings came out on last night. A new leader at the top, the Buckeyes, after their win over Penn State, leapfrog LSU. Ohio State now number 1, LSU number 2. You got Clemson at 11-0 and number 3, and then the scrum starts. You've got Georgia sitting there right now, but that's just until they play LSU, the SEC championship. Then you've got an Alabama team sitting right behind them, which I think is a load of crap that they're up there. That just aggravates me because other than LSU, who they lost to, they haven't played anybody. And I'm like, damn it, move them out. I'm sick of them. Move somebody. I want to see either Utah or Oklahoma, Minnesota even. That has Minnesota's. They lost to Iowa, so I'd say they're about the same as Alabama. But at least Minnesota has a solid win on Alabama doesn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the leapfrog. I like them kind of bumping those schools around based on who they're playing and rewarding some teams for better wins than another team has that week. I don't mind that side of it at all. I kind of like the way that the committee has done that. The Alabama thing is just always going to kind of be an argument, but I don't think there's any way you could say Minnesota should be up there in front of Alabama. Alabama's got a great opportunity to solidify themselves playing the Iron Bowl or whatever they call it this weekend against Auburn. I mean, if they can win that game, that'd be a great win for them, and that would put them, I think, right in the position that they're in. My question, and obviously my side of rooting on this, but what do they do if Georgia beats LSU? I mean, I don't think that they will, but what's the committee do?
LSU will drop to, I don't know, number 4. They will not drop out. There's no way that they drop.
I agree with you. So then you say Georgia and LSU are both in there, and Ohio State.
They would be. I wouldn't like it, but they would be. Yeah.
How would you see that if it was those 4? How would you see it? That's saying that Georgia beats LSU.
Georgia would be number 3. LSU would be 4.
So it would be Ohio State, Clemson. So it'd be an Ohio State LSU matchup in the first game.
Yeah.
Of the college football playoff. Yeah.
Clemson, Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll happen. I think LSU is I think they got too much power for Georgia. But if that happens, I mean, the committee, I guess maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe that doesn't put the committee in a bad position. Maybe that puts them in the easiest position possible.
Yeah, because I think if Georgia beats LSU, you're not gonna have people complaining about them being in, as opposed to Alabama, who's beaten no one and was beaten by LSU. So yeah, that would make it probably a little easier for them in that 4th spot. Maybe you're still gonna have people argue about it. That's fine. When you have the thing about the 4 teams, is there's always like 3 teams that could probably fill that 4th spot, and it just becomes a subjective argument.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know. I don't see that many other schools that I would like to see play in that 4th position. I mean, I don't want to see an Oregon in there, and I don't want to see which, I mean, they got beat last week, so they won't be. But I don't want to see a Utah or somebody like that. I mean, I want to see one of the Alabama. I want to see one of the Blue Bloods in there.
Okay, but you would have that with LSU. You'd have that with Clemson. You'd have that with Ohio State. Why do you need another SEC school? Why not someone from outside that also has
like who? Like, give me an example.
Georgia loses to LSU. They're out, obviously.
They're out. Yep.
Alabama has already lost to LSU, and they've beaten no one. So to me, they should be out.
They will have beaten Auburn. They're in there.
If they beat Auburn, that would give them one ranked win, yes. So if they beat Auburn and Georgia loses to LSU, unfortunately, I think that you're probably going to see Alabama in there in that number 4 spot.
But do you say that unfortunately because you don't like the SEC because we're Big Ten people? I'm just asking.
I'm not going to lie. There's probably a little of that in there, but it's this. Alabama lost to LSU when they were at their best, when they had Tua Tagovailoa. They don't have him now, and they're on a backup quarterback, so they're not as good. Because obviously if they were, then that kid would have been starting. So they're not as good as they were when they already lost on the team that's up there. And I will see. Beating Auburn is going to change the 4th spot. That would probably secure their 4th spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I guess I keep forgetting Tua's out. I mean, that's a big factor in it, and I just don't know. I don't know who I would rather see in that 4th position. I mean, obviously, I want Georgia to win.
During the NCAA tournament, all the time when it comes to the seed lines at the end of the year, if a team loses a star player, it affects their seed line. So why it's not affecting this, I don't know. They're doing it very differently. And they say that they look at this, they look at that, they look at the other things. It's not true. They don't. It's just a simple eye test for them. Because you're not going to tell me that they can measure what Alabama has done at this moment, right now. Why are they number 5? They beat nobody and they lost to a team that's above them. So why are they in front of Oklahoma? Why are they in front of Minnesota, who's beaten Penn State? They have a loss, but they beat Penn State. Alabama's not done that. So how in the hell can Alabama be 3 spots in front of a Minnesota team?
All right, but so, I mean, the other teams that are there are Utah and Oklahoma. I mean, they're probably really the only other two that you could talk about in that discussion. And you know, right off the top of your head, tell me who's Oklahoma beat? I mean, who's Utah beat? That's going to be more impressive than Alabama beating Auburn.
I'd have to pull their schedules up. I'll be honest with you. I don't
But
have
yeah, and so would I. I agree with you. So would I. But I think we could both answer it based on their conferences as no one. I mean,
but I'm looking at Minnesota as an example, and I know they beat Penn State when Penn State was number 4. So you've got a number 4 win on your ledger and a loss to a ranked team, which that makes their resume better than Alabama's. Their name just isn't Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I guess I rely on my own eye test too much of it too.
That's what the committee is doing, though. That's my whole point. It's not supposed to be that, though. It's supposed to have a criteria that they say that they follow, and they don't follow it. It's not true. They don't. That's the issue.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm not even going to disagree with you. I mean, if I'm watching the college football playoffs, and I had the option of watching, you know, Alabama play whomever or Minnesota play whomever, I'm for sure going. And I'm a Big Ten person, obviously. You know, I'm pro Big Ten. I'd rather watch Alabama. I'd rather watch Alabama. Yeah,
the backup quarterback.
I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, Joe Burrow was a backup quarterback until this year. I mean, he was nobody, and I love watching that guy.
Well, he was somebody.
Mac, is it Mac Jones? Whatever, Mac something. I mean, that kid, he may be as good as Burrow. We just would never have known it if Tua had not gotten hurt.
Well, that's why Burrow left, because he was that good. He said, "I'm not going to sit here, man."
You know, there's a point when you're allowed to just say, "Hey, Todd, you're right." I mean, you can say that from time to time. You're not going to melt away. Like nothing bad's going to happen to you. When I'm right, just go ahead and say it. I mean, that's
ain't going to happen today. Maybe for Christmas.
I'll look forward to
that. I'll wrap it up and put a bow on it.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
I'll wrap it up and put a bow on it. So Indiana, of course, not mentioned in any of these things that we're talking about. And, you know, the sad thing is Indiana should be in the top 25 right now, even though they've even with the loss to Michigan, had they taken care of their business. And, yeah, after such a good season, you don't want to talk about anything negative, but there's just some truths. They should actually be freaking 9-2 right now. Without doubt. They should have beat Michigan State. That turned out to be a bad loss. Michigan State is behind them in the standings. And they should have beat Penn State, which would have been an incredible win for that program. One of the best in program's history, had they been able to just do what they needed to do at Penn State a few weeks ago. But they are where they are and still having a good season, is looking to go to 8 wins with a win over Purdue. And they have the pressure on them this year. There's been pressure in the last couple of years in other ways, because this game has come down to who goes to a bowl game. Well, neither team is playing for that this year, because Indiana is already bowl eligible and Purdue has no chance for that. So Purdue is playing just to stick a wrench in Indiana's season, and they would love nothing more than that. And I promise you, Jeff Brom would love nothing more than that, because that $6.5 million price tag of a salary he's got hanging around his neck doesn't look so nice when you've got a 4-win season going.
Yeah, there's no question. And you know, let's admit it. There's been plenty of seasons when, you know, Indiana has sat here and tried to, you know, make this game a big game, and they had nothing to play for. And you know, they could kind of, quote, save the season by beating Purdue. And you know, it's a recruiting battle. You're trying to get a lot of those Indiana kids, and you don't want to say there's nothing to play for. I mean, there's always, in this scenario, they recruit a lot of the Indiana kids based on, you know, the bucket game and based on the history of that. And if they could say they beat Indiana 3 years in a row, you know, kind of own Indiana just a little bit when it comes to that regard. But, as we know, Indiana does a lot of its recruiting down south in Florida. So I don't know how much of a big factor. And, you guys said it earlier. I think Matt said it earlier. There's a lot of kids from out of state and a lot of Indiana kids from out of state that are younger players, have never played in a bowl game. They don't understand this rivalry the way that it really is. And, I obviously didn't play football, but I know what it's like from a fan base perspective. Anytime IU plays Purdue, it's just a little extra. There's a little extra in that game. And, Indiana has a ton to put on the line right here. This team, to be able to talk about as a 9-win team is a big freaking deal at IU. And if that's not enough to play for, then at the wrong place.
Got a couple texts into the show. The book writes in, the Gator Bowl pays out $2.5 million per team. The top 6 bowls, $18 million. But the good thing about that, guys, when you're in the Big Ten, it all goes into one pot. And I think they share that equally on that side. And then Tim also asked about the U of L UK game coming up for our fans in Southern Indiana. That's a big game for those guys. A big game for Louisville. They were 2-8 last year. Scott Satterfield came over from App State, and man, he's got them rolling. If they win this game, that'll be 8 wins for them this season. That's a hell of a turnaround.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously very similar to the IU Purdue rivalry. I mean, you get Louisville and Kentucky, and the funny part is if you listen to Kentucky fans, they don't even really count this as that big of a game because they don't want to give Louisville that much credit. So it's just kind of funny how that is. But Kentucky dominates that state. No matter what sport it is, Kentucky fans dominate that state. I mean, I lived in Paducah as far west as you can get. I mean, I had to pass the University of Louisville and drive another 2 hours just to get to Lexington. And I'm telling you, everybody on the west side of Kentucky still roots for UK, and there's very few Louisville fans in that market. So that whole state's dominated by Kentucky. It's not quite as split like it is in Indiana.
Tim, I see a scolding coming on from Todd here very shortly after I read this text you sent in. He says, unfortunately, we have my wife's side coming over for Thanksgiving on Saturday, and they are UK fans, so we will have to watch IU on later. Huh? I tell them to get a damn hotel room somewhere if they want to watch that crap. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some houses that have, there's been some breakups happen because of games like this. And Tim, I think you're gonna have to put your foot down.
Yeah, man. What's with that, dude? Come on.
I'm a little bit disappointed in you.
Both of us a little bit disappointed in you there, man. Put the foot down. Tell them to go get a room somewhere if they want to watch that crap.
Tell them something at work came up and meet us at Yogi's.
There you go. You have all kinds of fun that way.
Yeah, we'll make sure of it.
And since it's text here, oh man, come on, Ryan. Hot take. He says IU and Georgia make the Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah, he lost me at Georgia because there is not a chance they even make the tournament. So that is not going to happen. IU definitely. I don't think that's going out on too much of a limb, to be honest with you. I mean, a month from now, at the end of December, I might be saying something totally different. But right now, I can tell you the way teams are getting knocked off and the way some of these other teams are winning, I wouldn't call that crazy right now.
Hey, we talked earlier in the show about we're probably about time to hit a break. We'll talk about this when we get back. That last night in the Stephen F. Austin big win over Duke. The star of that, Nathan Bain, who was the star of the game and hit the game winner on top of that. Man, he's got a great story. His family was hit devastated by the hurricane to the Bahamas. We'll talk about that when we come back. Plenty more to get to as well as we're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. We're back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former IU basketball player Derek Elson. Follow the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Eastbound and down, load it up and truck it. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go.
Yeah, welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. Hey, we're eastbound and down. Hope you're having a great Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Jim Coyle with you, Todd Leary as well. Last night, man, Todd, that game that Duke lost to Stephen F. Austin was, let me tell you how incredible it was again. A 150-game win streak in Cameron Indoor Stadium against non-conference opponents dating back to 2000. The longest in the NCAA. Gone. Wiped out.
Did you look up the Ken Palm? Did you look up the Ken Palm for Stephen F. Austin yet?
I did not.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either, but yeah. So that's just a mind. Saying part of that is it's a lot. That's some of those kids literally will talk about. I'm sorry, I'm eastbound and down.
I hear you.
I hear you. You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's just fun. That's something, not only that fan base, but especially that coaching staff and team of kids. I mean, they will obviously think about, talk about, tell stories about that, forever. Now, they'll watch these kids on Duke. Most of them probably go off to the NBA, and they'll be able to tell the story for years about how they beat their pants off in their own gym.
Well,
Stephen F. Austin is ranked 222 in Ken Palm.
Wow.
What was Evansville? Any idea? When they beat Kentucky?
When they beat Kentucky?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
What are they now? Do you know?
While he's looking that up, Nathan Bain, who hit that winning shot last night. Tell me when you find it, Jake.
Evansville is 186 right now.
So they were 220-something before that beat Kentucky. Or better. Nathan Bain, who hit that winner last night against Duke, he's from the Bahamas. His family, everything they had wiped out by the storms that they had there recently. And they asked him about that after the game last night. You can see him; he was tearing up. It meant so much to him, but so you couldn't make a better story than that last night. My God, this underdog Cinderella story goes into the Cameron Indoor Stadium and wins, and the kid that does it is a kid who comes from nothing but heartache. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if that's Sunday NFL on Fox, Erin Andrews or whichever CBS, whatever station she's on, they would have turned that into, the heartbreaking story of the year, the way that they do every Sunday with these big stories. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's one where everybody's going to root for that kid. Heck, half the Duke fan base is going to root for that kid. Now they're not going to root for them to come in there and win. And, we talked about it earlier. I was driving home from Zionsville back to Evansville last night, just kind of watching that game on my phone, as I'm not supposed to be doing while I'm driving, I'm sure. But, that's one of those, just like the Evansville. With about 6 minutes to go, I was like, man, they have really made a game of it. Now, Duke's going to pull it out and come away with the win. Then it goes to overtime, and you're like, dang it, they had a chance to beat them, but there's no way they beat them in overtime. And to pull that thing off and steal the ball at the end and come down and not call a timeout and make that shot, just things were going their way yesterday. And it's a cool story when it's not your team that they come in there and beat. Yeah,
and it also is another reason to look at the fact Duke, I know at one point on the floor, maybe when it happened, Vernon Carey and his teammates, they were all freshmen except for the one sophomore. I can't think of his name now, the guard.
Trey Jones.
Yes. I think they was all freshmen except for Trey Jones, who's a sophomore. And while they were way superior to Stephen F. Austin, they couldn't beat them. And that's the difference between youth and experience. And I'm telling you, that the youthful teams, that one and done, those guys are great, but they don't win anything. They rarely win the NCAA tournament. It's just last year's Duke team didn't even Final Four. It's going back to what Archie Miller trying to go to Indiana with those solid 3-4 stars, 4-year players with some other guys sprinkled in. That's the way of the future, because especially when the rule change comes and the one and done rule is gone, you're going to have to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year's Duke team is probably proof point more than me. I know Kentucky tries to put the point every year, but they just don't seem to mesh quite as well together. And I think it's probably coaching. But when you can put the level of talent that Duke had on the floor last year, when you could put that out there with what's going to be probably one of the top 3 greatest coaches of all time in Coach K, and they're not able to catch it and get it done, that's my fault, because it's very, very difficult. How do you ever get a team more talented than Duke put on the floor last year?
You're going to put your hotspot on. You sound like a robot.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Man, I had some great points, too. I really messed that one up.
You're starting with your head.
Huh?
Nothing. It was a joke. Pointy head. Get it? Pointy head.
Got it.
Indiana moving forward. Now they've got the game on Saturday against South Dakota State. Coming in off of Thanksgiving, all right? I know that's not the Thanksgiving everybody else gets, but it's still a disruption. It's still a change in what your normal pattern is. And then the IU Purdue game is going on before. Does any of that affect Saturday, the mindset, the mentality, the makeup as you're going into that game?
It doesn't. Here's the thing: is Thursday you'll think about it a bunch. Thanksgiving is that holiday where it's great to get together with friends and family, and that's just a great feeling that day. It's a warm feeling. Everybody kind of every other day of the year, if your family doesn't really get along, hopefully on Thanksgiving everybody kind of sits back and eats a bunch of food and feels good about their situation and everybody in their family, and overlooks a lot of other stuff. Once Friday gets here, Thanksgiving's over and that's done and it's in the past, and you're right back at it, and it's no different than any other day. And during that day, they may think about things a little bit differently and maybe sad they're not at home with their family. But truly, once Friday gets here, gone, and you're talking about 18, 20-year-old kids, I mean, as long as their girlfriend stays in town, they'll be fine once Friday gets here.
Yeah, all right.
Did you not get any of that?
Most of it. I think so. We're going to run it through the decipher machine and let it figure it out. Spit it back out.
And I'm going to get an ass chewing after this is over.
Absolutely not. It's just one of those technological issues that we seem to like to deal with. But yeah, a big time on Saturday. Looking forward to that. Make sure everybody comes out to Yogi's and join us to watch Indiana take on Purdue and get that 8th win of the season, get the bucket back after a 2-year hiatus of that. Todd, in the football locker room, they have a special stand that the bucket is kept inside of, and it has been empty for 2 years and on display on purpose. That's the kind of mentality. There's signs that are all over the locker room that are up all year. Coach, the offensive coordinator, Kalen DeBoer, said that as soon as he got here, it didn't take him long to figure out the importance of this rivalry because he saw signs that were up. What have you done to beat Purdue today? And he thought that they were just left up from last year because it's the last game of the season. He said, but he realized when March rolled around and April rolled around and they're still there, that no, that's not the case. They're there year round. It's one of those things that it's one of the yearly goals that you have. It's a big goal for this football program.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big goal for the whole fan base in general. I mean, obviously, this is the bragging rights for the year, and we've talked about it already. There's not a lot for Purdue to play for on paper, but it's never that way. This game is always, no matter what sport it is. This one, it's got a special trophy attached to it, so I think it obviously is a little bit different than some of the others. But this rivalry in football and basketball, I mean, it has split some households and it's caused some major arguments and fights. So it's a big deal, and it's if you live in this state and you've been a part of it for a long time, everybody knows the bucket game is a big game, and that's the one throughout the year that you want to win. And I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, they make full commercials about that rivalry, and that's just because they're usually pretty good in football. I don't think you can match the rivalry fan base wise between IU and Purdue. I mean, there's some pure hatred involved in most of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't understand. I'm pretty unbiased. I mean, I stay down the middle of the road with most things, but I do have to say, can you imagine having to pull for Purdue in anything? It would just. Golly, I was seriously. I'm like, I've been to West Lafayette enough. It's like, wow. Can you imagine staying there for 4 years? That would be unbelievable. But
you're just trying to get me to say something stupid right now.
Not you think you need my help?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But in this case, hey. Let's not. There's no kidding. We're homers when it comes to IU. I grew up an Indiana fan, which meant I grew up expecting to hate Purdue, and that's the bottom line. In the basketball rivalry, I think the Kentucky game became a bigger game for us than Kentucky seemed to always be ranked nationally when we played them, and it was always a big CBS game. And that game when rivalry became a little bit bigger in my mind for that. But now back just as a fan, I'm back the same way. I mean, if you don't win that Purdue game, I've got way too many friends that are Purdue fans, and I've got to hear it all year long. So, yeah, definitely. You jump back into that fan mode where if they lose that game, I mean, yeah, I feel like I take the brunt of it. So I root a little extra hard in that game.
Ryan from Michigan came back. He texted earlier about Indiana and Georgia making the Sweet 16. He said he literally almost fell over laughing when he heard us start to read the text, but he thinks with a stud like Edwards and IU's balance that can happen. Well, IU is a possibility. We're not disagreeing with you there, Ryan, but Georgia, I don't see them making the tournament even with a stud like that because they have to go through Florida and Tennessee and Kentucky and whoever else is going to be good in the Big Ten this year. I mean, the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, and also, you look at a guy like John Morant last year down at Murray State. I mean, that was a little different scenario. They didn't have the conference they had to win in order to get in the NCAA tournament like Georgia has. And they're not going to be able to finish in the top half of that of the ACC in basketball. And they're going to have too many losses heading into conference play. So I don't see Georgia having a chance at making the tournament, but, they could surprise you. They could come out and do something special. Them making the Sweet 16, I mean, you're just stirring the pot when you say something like that, because I truly don't think they have any chance. That kid is really, really good, but if you look at them as a team, that's not a really, really good team.
It's like when
being the coach.
It's like when LSU had Ben Simmons. They didn't do anything.
It's a very, very good analogy. And I'm sure that kid would be happy to be compared to Ben Simmons.
Here's another one coming back for more abuse. Tim, he says that both games tip off at noon. He was talking about having to watch Indiana after later. Both games tip off at noon. He's outnumbered. It's your house. Tell him to go get a room. Go get a room, or I would leave. I would just leave, like Todd said. Just say, I got something I got to do, and I'm going to Yogi's in Bloomington.
We can make him a one-day producer. He could say he's got to work.
Tim, you need a job for a day. You are producer for a day if you want to get out of that crap house and not watch Kentucky.
If you ever need a lifeline to get away from the family, to come hang out with us and watch football, like, we will make you a producer for the day.
And you know what, Todd? That just brings up a great idea. That's going to be one of our prizes that we're going to do in the future for a game day experience for somebody. We'll make him a game day producer. They can come be a part of the show that we're doing, maybe both shows in the same day if we can get it worked out. That sounds like a great, fun thing to do right there.
I agree. I got a couple people I'd like to win that.
Yeah.
Because when they come in, I like to abuse them about some of their stupid comments they make about people will make it to the Sweet 16. Just kidding, Ryan. Just messing with you. But I could be pretty brutal. So when you come in person, you better not be thin-skinned, because if you are, don't sign up to win that award.
Don't worry. I'll have Jake hit the mute button. We'll just, bam, make him go away. He won't be too rough on you. But Don, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. So, and there's always a lot of games. And Thanksgiving means, you think of football, you think of the NFL, you think of the Cowboys and the Lions playing on. And there's a lot of college games this week. A lot of college games on Friday this week, football games, and basketball as well. But all kinds of stuff that you can watch, whatever you want to look for as far as football games on Friday. I think you got the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State. You have Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami, Ohio, Ball State, Toledo, Central Michigan, Texas. That replaced Texas A&M. That's sad. That tradition was dropped. You hate to see that. Iowa's at Nebraska. Nebraska is 5-6. This is their only chance to become bowl eligible. Iowa, number 17, Iowa, 8-3. At Nebraska. Iowa's only a 5.5-point favorite there, Todd.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this Nebraska team has not been very good, and I know they won. Yeah, they looked really good in that game. I mean, Maryland's had they've made a few teams look like that, but yeah, that when it was 54-0, you're just looking at that like this is a freak misprint. But Iowa. They just don't beat people very badly. I mean, they make games ugly, and the 5.5 point spread for them. I mean, if you were forced to bet that game, I don't see how you could bet anything other than Iowa. But they have games that are ugly. It's not like they're going to go out probably and score 54 points. When's the last time Iowa scored 54? It's probably been a long time. It was probably against Indiana.
Washington State is at Washington. Mike Leach, he's a 6.5 point underdog. I like Mike Leach. He cracks me
up. I do too. He's a riot.
Oh, you actually like what?
I do like. He's funny.
He's like Bill Walton. Did you like your picture yesterday?
No.
I got to listen to Bill Walton do a game last night. It was invigorating.
You had to do what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I mean, it's just painful. I mean, when you can watch a basketball game and describe it using the terms volcano and waterfall you've killed way too many brain cells doing something.
Yeah. Georgia's at Georgia Tech this weekend. Jessica Yu is a 28.5-point favorite over the Yellow Jackets, so that should not be much of a contest there. Northwestern travels to Illinois. How about Illinois? Illinois has had an unbelievable season. They're already bowl eligible, and they're probably going to win their 7th game of the season. So I know everybody is all up in arms about the great season Indiana's had, and they have had a great season. But I'll be honest with you, Illinois' season has been better. They beat a Wisconsin team, and they went on the road, and after being down by like 3 touchdowns, come back and beat Michigan State in East Lansing. So those are 2 gigantic wins on their resume this year. What a season Lovie Smith has had for the Illini.
Yeah, and it kind of came out of nowhere when they had that Wisconsin win. I mean, they didn't even really look very good up until that point. But since then, they've looked really, really good, and that's you're right on the money. That's been a huge turnaround, and they have had every bit as good a season as Indiana, just like you said, no doubt.
Louisville and Kentucky are going at it as well. Both teams already bowl eligible. We talked about exactly University of Tim, right? No, kidding. Clemson, South Carolina. That's not going to be much of a matchup. Clemson's a 25.5-point favorite. These are Saturday games now that we're talking about. So my brother Mark is the head of the security for Charlotte football program. They're bowl eligible this year, first time ever. They've only been Division I for a couple of years. So congratulations to them. I'm sure that he's excited about it. Maryland, Michigan State. Here's the battle of the nons. Michigan State needs to beat Maryland at home to become bowl eligible. So I'm sure that they will do.
Yeah, I mean you would have thought that was just a no-brainer and a gimme, except for Michigan State's not played very well at all. But you got a Maryland team that it just looks like they've laid down. I mean, you can be down in Nebraska 54-0. You're not playing very hard.
Okay, let's get back to this Alabama argument. Here's the game right here that takes place on Saturday. Wisconsin, number 12 Wisconsin, who has traveled to number 8 Minnesota. Wisconsin's a 2.5-point favorite, but what if Minnesota wins this game and they can add a victory over number 12 Wisconsin and over number 4 Penn State to their resume? You're still telling me that Alabama deserves to be in the top 4 ahead of Minnesota?
No, probably not. But if they're going to beat Auburn, I still probably would say yes. I mean, but that's me in the eye test part of it, because I just don't see Minnesota as that.
That's because you're saying Minnesota, though. If their name wasn't Minnesota, you wouldn't see that, because how many games have you watched Minnesota play?
2.
Which games were they?
I watched them when they beat Penn State.
Pretty impressive win.
It was a very impressive win, no doubt about it. I looked at the schedule after we were arguing about it, and I'll tell you, the team. If Oklahoma wins out, Oklahoma for sure deserves to be in, and that's after a terrible loss to Kansas State. But they will have won 3 of their last 4 games against ranked opponents, and they beat Texas when they were number 11 earlier in the year. So if Oklahoma wins out, they deserve. And given if Georgia loses to LSU, Oklahoma deserves to be that team that gets pushed in there, in my opinion.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. My only knock on Oklahoma is some of their wins that they've had against non-ranked opponents were very, very tight. Like I think the 5-5 TCU team that went down to the wire last week.
Last week with Baylor, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, their Baylor win, but they're going to have to play Baylor again. I mean, They played Baylor this week. They played TCU last week. They got Oklahoma State this week, and then they'll have to play Baylor again. So I mean, you look at them. I don't see how you could leave Oklahoma out if they went undefeated. I mean, for the rest of the season, if they won out, I don't see how you could leave them out.
Yeah, they'll have 1 win on their resume. LSU and Texas A&M going at it. That could be a decent game, but things have not gone as swimmingly well for Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M as I'm sure they would hope. That $7.5 million salary he's getting, 7-4 is not what they're looking for in College Station.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. But I mean, you never know. They may be loaded for next year and maybe back to being a powerhouse, but they were They're not very good this year, and I'm surprised they even have 7 wins because they've not. Watching them play, they've not been very good.
Blast from the past game, Florida State travels to Gainesville to take on number 11 Florida. The Gators are a 17.5-point favorite in that game. So Florida State, man, not going well for them either. They're on an interim run, but amazingly, they fired their coach, had to pay him $18 million, and at least they're bowl eligible, so they'll get some of that money back.
Yeah, that program is just that's one. It's like the U. I mean, I always view them as just dirty, and they do something wrong. They do something illegal. That's the way I always look at Florida State football. Like the U.
Army needs to win to become bowl eligible. Do you know where they're traveling to?
Where?
Okay, Army's on the East Coast. They're playing at Hawaii. In a game that starts at 12:30 a.m.
Yeah, well, they've probably been there for a few days already, I would hope.
I'm sure they landed on the beach.
Good one.
But, yeah, that's still got to be hard, man. We're talking, 7-hour time change?
There's no doubt it's going to be hard, but I mean, who's going to complain about going to Hawaii? I mean, these guys
no. I'm just saying, but they have to win this game to become bowl eligible. Hawaii is 8-4. Army's sitting at 5-6. So that's a tough.
Couldn't they still win the Army-Navy game? Don't they have Army-Navy game next week?
Oh, is there another game after that? So if that's the case, then what?
Isn't there always an Army-Navy game?
They're 5-6, so that means they played 11 games. This will be their 12th game. So no, they've already played that game apparently.
No way.
I don't remember. I thought that was always over Thanksgiving.
No, it's always like the week after all the. It'll all be like next week. It's always the week after all the rivalry games.
Well, I don't know.
Where it's the only game. It's the only game of the week.
Well, I don't understand why Army would be allowed to play 13 games.
Because they're the Army. They can do whatever they want.
We'll see about that.
Look it up, Jake.
We'll
Come on,
see,
Jake.
Jake, do we have to hit a break? There's no rules in the second hour, I understand. Actually, we'll just skip that. Tim says, I am IU first, but I started watching Louisville. IU doesn't play Illinois until March 1st at Illinois. I don't understand that. Yeah.
I'm going to pretend like my mic went out and I just didn't hear what Tim had to say. I'm still mad at him from the other day.
Let's see. Ryan's enjoying the
I was just messing with you earlier, Ryan.
He knows that. He's laughing. He's happy.
All right, good.
And everybody's saying, it's all about having fun. We're just having fun here. Having fun. But speaking of having fun, I hope everybody has a fun, and happy, but most importantly, safe Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to be off tomorrow, so everybody can go enjoy Thanksgiving. Nobody wants to listen to us after having eaten, I'm sure. We'll put something together with a nice Thanksgiving Day special broadcast with some of our better interviews, which means Todd won't be in them.
Funny but true.
But we will be back on Friday, back at it, live and in color. And then, of course, don't forget on Saturday, man, just come on out to Yogi's and let's watch the Indiana Hoosiers beat Purdue in football and get that 8th win. And as soon as that game's over, the basketball game's going to start as Indiana takes on South Dakota State. After the game with Todd Leary, of course, comes to you live from Yogi's immediately following that ball game. So we've got all kinds of stuff busy, packed Saturday. Come out to Yogi's and enjoy it with us after you've had a big fat Thanksgiving day. What do you think about that?
Let's start that tradition. Let's start that Saturday game tradition and get next year. I'll be in Bloomington, but this year a lot of fun. I hope people come out all together. We'll break in for do show interviews and interview some of the people that come out and hang out with us. It'll be a lot of fun.
And we'll be able to hear everything you say then too.
Hey, you just wait till Friday. I'm going to be in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. I mean, you think I have bad connection now. You just wait till Friday. I'm going to have the hotspot in full force.
You're going to have to climb up on Mount Pilot or whatever.
I will. Yeah, I will be up on the lookout, like holding my phone up in the air for you guys to be able to hear me. I mean, you talk about the sticks. I'm going to the area where they go to drop off bodies. I mean, there's nothing where I'm
rolling down the hill.
Yeah, Brokeback Mountain, I think, was real close to where I'm going to be. Is that what it's called?
Are you asking me? I would not know.
I think that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. So it sounds like you have great familiarity with that. So I'll let that leave that one alone.
Where I'm going to be, trust me, I'll send you some pictures. You'll be like, what? That is – people actually live there? It's
Dude,
crazy.
My dad grew up in Gravel Switch, Kentucky. You're not telling me anything I don't know.
Hey, I have to pass 3 hollers just to get to where we're going.
I asked him where he was born once, and he said, I don't know, up there in one of them hollers. I think it was Happy Holler.
When I went home with Jessica for the first time, I was like, where do I turn up here? She goes, there's 2 more hollers up there. I was like, there's 2 more. I had no idea what it is they're talking about. And truly, I still don't. I just kind of act like I do now. I know my way around there now. So I just act like, oh, yeah, the 4th holler up there on the right, I'm turning.
You know why they call them hollers, don't you?
No, I have no idea. I don't even know what they're really saying. I couldn't even spell it.
Because you can't get any communication devices up there, so they just holler.
You got to
hey,
holler?
y'all want to come over for dinner?
As soon as I cross the state line, then it's one big holler.
Exactly. That's what they do, holler. So Tim wants to know, so you're delivering a body, he said.
I'm not delivering a body. No, hey, do these people not realize I have left the funeral industry? I'm full-time. I'm full-time Coyle and Leary now.
Well, one of these days they'll be able to hear you say that.
I'll holler it louder.
Oh, man, it's been a fun day. It's been a fun day before Thanksgiving. We hope everybody's enjoyed it. We have certainly enjoyed doing it with you, having a lot of fun. It's been a hell of a great fun 2 weeks, and looking forward to just continuing to get funner and funner. It's a lot more. I get to laugh a lot more than I used to. It's hard to laugh at myself.
Bull crap. You laugh at yourself all the time. What are you talking about? You laugh at your stupid jokes all the time.
Well, I'm just saying. It's a lot easier now. I got something to laugh at. I can something make fun of. Jake, we hope you have a happy –
I just cut somebody off really bad. Sorry about that.
Did you give him the finger?
I know they were giving me the finger. I was trying to wave and apologize, and they were not accepting my
Tell them I'm headed to a holler.
He doesn't want to talk to me. He wants to just beat my butt.
Jake, I hope you and your family have a very, very happy Thanksgiving and enjoy your day off tomorrow.
Appreciate it. Hope you all do the same.
Todd, I hope you and Jessica have a safe commute and good luck to your son on Friday. Maybe this time he can hit a winning shot.
Yeah, I know it. He was. We were disappointed last night, but we'll see. We'll see what happens Friday.
No matter what, it looks like they've got an outstanding season ahead of them. So looking forward to keeping up with that with the boys at Carmel. But we wish everybody else to have a very, very safe, fun, festive, happy Thanksgiving holiday. And until Friday, when we're back, for Todd, for Jake, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.